Last month, a vintage baseball card sold for over $100,000. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the top 25 sales on eBay. The lowest selling card on this list is about $8,000, and it only gets more expensive from there. So let's take a look at some sales and some honorable mentions. Let's jump right into it. So what I define vintage baseball 1980 or earlier, that's actually updated 1 year. Last video I said 79, change it to 1980 for Henderson. I am thinking about updating that to 81. I'm on the edge whether I should keep 79, 80, 81. So let me know down below in the comments. Also for these videos, no duplicate cards. Autos and variants are okay. And then graded and raw cards are acceptable. Although in this video, you typically see graded cards. Occasionally there will be a raw card. So number 25, we have a 1938 Gowdy Heads Up. Number 274 of Joe DiMaggio. These two cards in the set. One with the plain background, one with the cartoon. Personally, I like the ones with the cartoon. I think the plain background is a bit boring, but it is a polarizing set. Some people absolutely despise this set. Personally, out of Joe DiMaggio cards, my favorite of his is the Zenith from 1933. This is back when he played in the Pacific Coast League before he joined the Yankees, but it's a super, super tough card. It's a regional issue, and there's two types of it. One with a tab, one without the tab. So if you find the tab, hefty card, right? It's really expensive. It's tough to find. But this is still a really good Joe DiMaggio card for someone to own if they want something in the 1930s. Up next, 1954, Topps Hank Aaron, something you see all the time. He does have two rookie cards from 1954. The rarer one is cheaper than the Topps, but regardless, this sold for $82.50. Up next in the 23 spot, we have a 1910 E98 of Hannes Wagner. The red background on this copy, it sold for $9,400. If I remember correctly, a lot of E98s were in the Black Swamp finds, which is why a 7 only sold for $9,400. When you think of 7, you think, wow, that's a crazy grade from 1910, especially of a Hannes Wagner. So with that out of the way, let's look at number 22, which is a hand-cut card, a W502 of Babe Ruth from 1928. This sold slightly under $10,000. Personally, I think this is a good buy in comparison to something like a Gowdy. I believe a Gowdy 4 is well over $10,000 right now, but this is under. It's a little bit earlier and it's a little scarcer. Now I know it doesn't have the appeal of the Gowdys. Everyone knows the Gowdy cards. Barely anyone knows a W502. Some people absolutely hate hand-cut cards like this, but regardless, it's an earlier Ruth. It's a little bit tougher to find. All right, we have a 1949 Leaf of Jackie Robinson. Mentions rookie on the label. I don't know. This card sold for about $9,995. And yeah, let's jump into 20. And why I say I don't know is Jackie has a lot of cards earlier than his 49 Leaf. 1953 Topps Mickey Mantle in a PSA 5. It looks like a pretty clean 5. Always with these 53s, look in the bottom left, see how they are chipped, at least for the Mantle I should specifically say, because they haven't always been graded about the same consistency across the board, but I think this looks pretty good. Maybe something going on in that corner, can't fully tell. This copy over here sold for $10,300. In the 19 spot, we have a 9 OC of Nolan Ryan and Jerry Kuzman. Yeah, 9 OC. And honestly, the centering is not even that bad to get the OC qualifier on this card. And it sold for $10,500. We have a 1952 Topps Willie Mays in a PSA 5. A little bit of a diamond cut on this example over here. And it sold for $10,999. Number 17, we have a 1975 Topps card number 500 of Nolan Ryan that achieved the PSA 9 grade. He has 275 cards that have the same picture. He also has a miniature card, which are much scarcer to find than the full size, although they don't really get as much love or a premium as they really should for the scarcity side of things. This one sold for $11,000. 1952 Del Wilbur. First time ever hearing of this name, but the reason why this is so expensive is it's a PSA 9. And there's a lot of 52 set collectors out there. And I mean, it's an iconic set also. So someone may want to just get a high grade in that set in itself. Not even a set collector for the registered. This copy over here sold for $11,752. But what I will say is this is not the only 52 that will be featured in this video. We're going to see a lot more a little bit later, including some really scarce graybacks. Oh, there's one grayback, but 1956 Topps grayback here of Mickey Mantle. This sold for $12,000. Triple Crown year, and his return after a short Bowman run. 1958 Topps card number 150 Mickey Mantle in a PSA 8, and this sold for $13,000. This is a really awesome one, a dual signature of Mickey Mantle as well as Willie Mays. Card has an authentic grade. The autos together have a 9 grade, and it sold for $13,499. Two legends on one card like that. All right, we have a pre-war card, T206 Old Mill of Christy Mathewson dark cap. And if you wonder why with the Christy Mathewson you see dark cap, well, he has two cards like this, a dark cap and then also a light cap. It's a little bit of a variant on here, so just look at that. That's why you see a dark cap on that side of things. SGC7, which is a very high grade. Christy Mathewson, one of the best pitchers in like the early 1910s, up there with like Cy Young as well as Walter Johnson. And this card sold for $14,000. Also throw Adios in the mix, but he passed away really, really early. Also, Walsh was a really good pitcher. All right, we have a 1952 Pete Reiser grayback. Now, we don't know for sure how the graybacks were distributed, whether it's from Canada or through tissues. And it's a mystery that I hope someone solves it one day. We're down to 2 leading theories. It'd be kind of cool if it was. Skeptical if it will ever be figured out. But this card over here sold for about $15,000. Like all other videos, let's jump into a few honorable mentions before we go over our top 10. So first we have another dark cap of Christy Mathewson in a 5. This sold for $5,000. Then we have a 1946 Propaganda's Montiel of Stan Musial. This got a 1. There's a hole in the card, which most people are going to say hole in the card. That's crazy. But with this release in general, these are paper thin. Like these are some of the thinnest cards I've ever held. And like you could literally put it in the light and all the light emulates through them. It's very common to see these with missing corners or holes in the card. They come out of Cuba. Super, super tough to find. This copy over here sold for about $5,000, which is a little bit lower than market rate. From private sales, I've heard of this card, and I don't know if a lot more have flooded the market. I've been seeing a lot more that have been graded over the last year or 2 years. These have been selling anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000. So this is a bit of a lower sale on this one, and I think someone got a pretty good deal. I think also partially why it got the lower sale is these over here. Now, I assume that these are holes in the card. They actually could be just like ink splotches. I can't fully tell just from this image, but it looks like they're holes. 1952 Eddie Matthews, and this sold for $56.75. What's interesting enough is from like the Topps rookie perspective in base rookie cards, this is the most expensive rookie card in low grade. If you look at a 3, right? A 55 Clemente and a 3 doesn't sell for $5,600. 54 Hank Aaron doesn't sell nearly close to $56.75 in a 3. So you go across the board, right? You think of all the Topps rookie cards. Eddie Matthews is the most expensive. Even like in a 1, this card is anywhere from like $2,000 to $3,000 based off of the eye appeal. So it's always kind of a fun fact, especially since Topps doesn't really market the Eddie Matthews card as much as they really should. 1965 Topps Hank Aaron in a 9. This sold for $6,500. Up next, a 1950 Bowman Ted Williams with an autograph on here. This is a really sweet card with that Ted Auto on there. Back when SGC actually had a partnership with JSA, or they did their own autograph authentication in-house. Wish they still had it, but I don't think it's coming back anytime soon, especially with PSA owning them now. This sold for $6,500. I say PSA, it's Collectors Universe that owns them. This one kind of surprised me on the sale. This is a 1960 Topps Al Kaline in a 9, sold for $8,000. I assume that there's no 10s out there, and there's maybe a small sample of 9s, and that's why it sold for so much. But I would have never expected this price point for a 9, and I'm sure it dips quite a bit when you go to an 8. 1952 Carl Olson and an 8, another high grade 52 in the list this month. This sold for $8,000. Now let's jump into our top 10. And we're going to start off with a 1962 mantle in a PSA 8. This copy over here sold for $16,000. These are always super condition sensitive. These wood borders, they show every nick. And you can even see over here, there's quite a lot for this stuff being an 8. Although it is an old cert, so I will say that. 51 Bowman Maze, a nice looking 5.5. Little centering issues top to bottom, but 51s tend to be pretty terribly centered in general. I think this has decent centering, and eye appeal. Sold for $17,100. In the 8 spot, a 1955 Roberto Clemente 8 with an OC qualifier. You can see top to bottom is a bit OC. So today I don't think it would get the qualifier, or I don't even remember if they got rid of qualifiers or not, but this sold for $17,850. We have a T206 Piedmont Cobb 350 and a PSA 5. This card over here sold for solid $18,000. And this is the bat off shoulder. There's a few cards in the T206 set. Green, the red, bat on shoulder and bat off shoulder. Number 6, we have an amazing card. Something I want to own one day. Well, I say that, but after this price point, I definitely am not going to own it. This is an E107, which are some of the first baseball cards produced in the 1900s. So there's a pretty big gap if you think about when baseball cards were released. So in the 1880s, we had a solid run up for a while. And then early 1890s, it kind of stopped for a bit until you had your Mayo Cup lugs in 95. And then there really wasn't any releases until 1903. So Cy Young, he has a few cards in the 1800s, but they are 6-figure cards, 7-figure cards. This is one of the earliest Cy Young cards that's quote unquote affordable to get. He does have some premiums and other things like that, but kind of like tobacco card size. And yeah, so there's this E107 set is absolutely loaded. I highly suggest you look into them if you want to find some early stars. And this one sold for $27,400. In the number 5 spot, we have a Mickey Mantle. This has an 8 with an OC qualifier. There's a lot of OCs this episode, just thinking about it. But this card over here sold for $30,000. Now that's insane for just the number 5 spot in this video. Sometimes $30,000 will make the number 1 spot when I do these. So there's still some other higher sales, including that 6-figure one. Let's take a look. Number 4 is an 1855 Tops of Sandy Koufax, his rookie card. Card number 1, 2, 3. Also, I think this one has some centering issues, but did not get that qualifier on the card. This one sold for $40,000. Number 3, a 1949 Leaf Babe Ruth in an 8. This one sold for $41,650. Let's take a look at number 2. Also, this was issued shortly after Babe Ruth passed away, which is why it's so popular. Although Babe Ruth does have other cards in 48 and 49. Just the Leaf exploded in popularity. Plus, it's an iconic set. Number 2 is a 1915 Cracker Jack of Ty Cobb. This sold for an astounding $55,000. And if you're not too familiar, there's also 1914 Cracker Jacks. How you can tell the two apart is just by flipping over the backs on them. They're both printed different ways. So they use the same imagery, but the backs are different. 1914s you'll find are in lower grade. 1915s, they're issued also in a full set. So that's why you typically see a lot more 5s, 6s, and 7s. Whereas 1914s, you see a lot of 1s and 2s. But there are higher grades out there. They just fetch such a high premium. Number 1, 1952 Mantle in a 5. This fetched $109,000. Crazy sale. Hey, thanks guys for checking out this video. I'm going to put on the screen right now the most valuable baseball cards from the 1950s. I highly recommend you check out that video. A ton of research was put into that, and you're going to see some cards all over the world, including stuff out of Japan and South America. So check that video out, and